From 12 News, this is Newsmakers.
Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. This week, we're bringing you two key interviews by my colleague Kim Kalunian. Later in the program, Governor Dan McKee. But first, Kim's conversation with Rhode Island Department of Transportation Director Peter Alviti.
So, Director, I'm just going to start with a very broad and general question. There is construction everywhere.
Yes.
And I've heard from people that you can't drive from one end of the state to the next without merging and this, that, and the other. How much longer is construction season going to be in full swing, quite like we're seeing it right now?
Years.
Okay.
Years. I mean, understand that it took decades for our roads and bridges to come under disrepair. We started a major program 9 years ago.
Roadworks.
I mean, since then we've rebuilt 300 bridges. And we've got a lot more to rebuild. We've taken a deficient bridge inventory from 30% of our bridges being, nearly 30%, 27, 28% of our bridges being structurally deficient to now less than 10%. That's all of this construction that you see going on. There's still another 10% we have to do. And then we have the roads. While we've been paying attention to the bridges, and by federal mandate, we need to, there's still a lot of work to be done on the roadways. And the work that you're seeing, the good news is this. The state of Rhode Island is finally addressing this problem under this governor, the previous one in the legislature, and our congressional delegation. They're all chipping in to help us rebuild Rhode Island. So that's what you're seeing out there. Of course, we do this work in the summer, the spring, summer, and fall because those are the months when construction can take place. We can't do it during the winter. You know, the asphalt, the paving plants close down and materials freeze and people freeze, right? So we do this work during the summer, but we try to do it so that we have the minimum amount of impact on the traveling commuters. And I think for the most part, we've succeeded in doing that. There are still times where we ask for cooperation and patience, but in the long run, it's an investment that we're all making in dollars and our time and in our inconvenience. The good news is, through all of that, things are being reconstructed and made better. And that's the objective here.
I always ask you about the Washington Bridge, and this conversation will be no different.
Sure.
You installed some paddles, sort of poles, along the 95 to 195 merge earlier this month, and you said they would be probably temporary unless they were really working well. What is the data showing? Is it helping with traffic in that area?
So we believe it's helping right now. The purpose of the panels are to allow the merge between the traffic coming from 95 north and 95 south that merge onto 195 east in an easterly direction, to help them make the merge and the weaves that take place that cause accidents and delays better. The paddles seem to have calmed that a bit. They're not making an appreciable difference in time savings, but I think we think they're making things safer and more orderly for that merge to happen. So we're planning on leaving them in place. We're going to continue to monitor them. We have some other ideas that we'll be employing to help make traffic in the easterly direction, particularly during the peak hours, better.
Can you share what those are?
They're still under study. We've got a number of them under study, and as they come out of study and become less of a draft and more in the final form, we'll certainly be sharing those with you and the public.
There was a pretty scathing op-ed in the Providence Journal by an engineer who worked on the Washington Bridge when it was originally built back in the 60s. And he said that there's been some evidence to him that made it obvious that the break that we've talked about many times that caused the emergency shutdown of the westbound span happened a long time ago, and that the DOT is misleading the public. I want you to respond to that. Did you mislead the public?
So opinions, there are a lot of opinions, you know, on this, right? And this particular engineer, a retired engineer, has certain opinions of it. There are other engineers that have opinions of the design that he did, calling his design bizarre and some of the design elements ticking bombs, the way it was designed. The one thing we know for sure, there are a couple of things we know for sure. We don't use that design anymore. We've got 1,100 bridges in Rhode Island. That's the only bridge that was designed that way. We also know, factually, from the records, that it wasn't even 25 years after it was built, using those design methods, that we had to do major repairs on it, those particular elements. Now, 25 years needing major repairs is not a very good indication of a sound design. The new bridge that we're building is devoid of any of those intricacies or complexities. It is a simple, very robust structure that's being built to last 100 years. And we're building it on new footings that will also last 100 years.
He also mentioned that maybe the substructure that's being replaced should have been kept in place.
And yet we have a multitude of other engineering companies and contractors not wanting to take the responsibility or risk associated with building a brand new multi-$100 million bridge on an old foundation that may be substandard. No one's willing to take that risk. And the risk to the general public, both in safety and in dollars invested, is certainly not warranted. The taxpayers of the state would end up picking the tab if we built a brand new bridge on footings that were unstable, right? We made the decision, after getting guidance from a lot of experts in both the construction field and in the engineering field, that a new bridge should be built on brand new footings. It allows for the bridge to be sound, with guarantees that both the footings and the bridge is going to last 100 years. And it allowed a better expanse of design options to the bridge builders that would reduce future maintenance on the bridge and make it easier to inspect and accessible. So everybody has an opinion, and I respect that. But the direction that we've taken is going to result in a good, safe bridge that is going to be built to standards. The federal agencies involved are pleased with that approach. They've endorsed that approach. And they're our partners. They pay 80% of their share. So we had them in, we had the experts in. The consensus was build a new bridge on brand new footings.
The last question I have on the bridge is one that I've gotten personally from folks who use the bridge. Is there any concern that removing the substructure will have any, will result in any shifts in the sand, the silt that's under there, and potentially negatively impact the other existing structure that's still there?
Number one, we are monitoring the vibrations from the demolition, and demolition is both far enough away and of an impact that is way below anything that would affect the existing structure. Secondly, we're removing the existing pilings only down to the seabed. We're not going down below that to disturb the soils and the sediment or the structures that exist. We're just leaving them in there and abandoning them, so there'll be no disruption of that subsurface that could affect the adjacent bridge. And it's all being done certainly with specialists who are engineers specializing in demolition, overseeing and monitoring the work that's going on, and also monitoring the vibrations and any effects that may be on the adjacent bridge, and there are none.
When we come back, truck tolls and cuts to RIPTA. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. We continue with my colleague Kim Kalunian's interview with RIDOT Director Peter Alviti. She asked for an update on the controversial truck tolling program and cuts to RIPTA.
I want to talk to you about truck tolls. We've talked about truck tolls before, and you had mentioned that they would be turned on when the technology was sort of back up and running.
Right.
It had collected a little dust while they were off and the lawsuit was making its way through the courts.
That's a good way to put it, collected dust.
We're across the street right now from the State House, where the legislature dealt with a pretty difficult budget. They're dealing with a deficit. There's some major construction projects happening that we need money for, and the truck tolls, although not supported by everyone, would certainly bring in some new revenue. What's taking so long to get them back on?
Well, it's a complex system. You remember back when we put them out, it took several years to get them all built and running and all of the software systems working and that. We're at that beginning stage again. We don't think it's going to take that long.
Okay.
But we're well into the assessment of the equipment. We have a company out there assessing every piece of equipment, literally hundreds and hundreds of pieces of equipment out there that monitor and serve as the sensors to collect the tolls, right? They're a good way into that process. We expect them to complete that process and to begin reassembling a system and putting it back together in a state of good repair, upgrading the firmware in the various electronic components, putting new cooling systems in the control cabinets that have been sitting around, as you said, collecting dust for several years while the lawsuits were pending, and reestablishing the equipment base that collects the information. At the same time, we're working with the Turnpike and Bridge Authority to re-implement the back office, which is the billing portion and the customer service portion of the tolls. They handle that for us. Then they're working with their vendors to put together a plan to reassemble the software system to account for the changes that came from the court ruling, which is the elimination of the caps for local trucking companies. The new software has to be designed and re-implemented in order to account for that, and some changes that have taken place in the national tolling standards since we shut the tolling system down. So there's work going on in a lot of different areas, all with a goal toward getting them reinstated. The governor and the legislature included in the last quarter of this year, which is next April, I believe, to have the system back up and running. We're going to try and get there. A lot of moving parts, so stay tuned on this.
Is it possible it might not happen by April?
Look, we're working to make it happen, but there are a lot of moving parts. So we need to really, look, when we get it up and running, just like the first time we took our time, we did it right, and the day it became operational, there were no glitches. We didn't have any software glitches or any hardware glitches. It ran until we had to shut it down as a result of the lawsuits. When we turn it on, it's our intention to have it in that same state of readiness.
I want you to put your RIPTA chairman hat on, if you will.
Yes.
We've been reporting on some pretty big cuts to services, many routes that impact everyday Rhode Islanders who rely on public transportation because of some funding issues. Is there any way to avoid this? Is this going forward no matter what? I mean, what's your perspective on how this is all shaking out? So
it's a challenge that's being provided to the agency, but it's one that comes without much surprise. The legislature and the administration, the governor's office, has been looking to right-size and make RIPTA a more efficient operation for years now, right? And I think we took that mission, which was now pretty much handed provided to us in the form of a budget that basically says we want the efficiency study that you folks are doing to be implemented in a way that you reform RIPTA by making its operations more efficient, making its routes more efficient, making the finances more compact, and maybe making some changes in the management approaches in that. We have a very good board of directors right now, and we have a very good administration and CEO inside RIPTA. And it is all of their missions, both the board and the administration, to take the directive that we've been given, the mission that we've been given by the legislature and the governor, to make those reforms, to make RIPTA more efficient and more responsive, and they're working on doing that. The efficiency study will be used as a boilerplate of recommendations to implement to meet that mission, the goals of that mission. And I'm very confident that the administration at RIPTA right now will be able to do that.
All right, when we come back, Governor Dan McKee's appearance this week on 12 News at 4. He's asked about the condition of the DCYF building and the possibility of a WNBA team moving to Providence. Stay with us. You're watching Newsmakers. Welcome back to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. Now, Governor Dan McKee's appearance this week on 12 News at 4.
So I want to start with sort of the breaking news of the day, that the birthing center at Newport Hospital is not closing down. You mentioned in a statement to us earlier this afternoon that you had a conversation with the CEO of Brown University Health earlier today. Do you think that conversation tipped the scales?
Well, we've been working behind the scenes with our health department and also Secretary Charest, explaining why we think that is something that needs to continue.
Sure.
And our willingness to work with that. My call to the president was in anticipation of asking him what was going on, and he was able to share with me at that point in time that they've found a way to keep the facility open, and then also to do an analysis of how to, going forward, make it in a way that really works for both the hospital and the public.
I want to ask you about another story that we just heard about in the top of the news. There's some concern about the health and safety of union workers inside of the DCYF building where it currently is located. Their lease is up for renewal. DCYF says they've handled all of the concerns. Are you concerned at all about the safety of that building?
Well, there was a question, I believe, about the report that actually came out today that was shared both to the union today, which says that there's no need for any action in that building. So I think that the report speaks for itself, Kim, but we'll continue to monitor all conditions in all the buildings, especially where our staff is working on a day-to-day basis.
We recently reported that the Connecticut Sun, the WNBA team that you were hoping to lure here to Rhode Island, will stay put in Connecticut for their 2026 season. Does that mean the conversations have stopped?
No, that's not a surprise.
Okay.
These transactions take time. I believe that the discussions are still going on, and we'll continue to stay in contact with the group that is potentially buying the Suns, and then really showing a way that the AMP is a great place to have their home games. Put a lot of investment in there, put a new roof on there to make sure it didn't leak. All the seats are all new, all the locker rooms are new, VIP spaces. So the convention center has done a great job, so we think it's a great spot. And I know the public, based on what we're getting at the Tidewater, for the soccer, the attendance there, that's something that that ownership really needs to understand that there's a lot of excitement around the idea.
There's a fan base here that's ready to go.
There's a fan base, yes.
You released a statement yesterday that you've been in regular communication with RIPTA about these suggested route cuts, which we've been reporting on as the agency faces a $10 million budget shortfall. Obviously, riders are really concerned with this. Is this sort of what you expected to happen when you signed the budget into law?
Well, we knew that there's an efficiency study that had to do with the analysis, and a lot of it is very telling, and it gives a job to the board, the RIP the board, as well as the management there. But you're down 25% on ridership over the last 10 years. You haven't had a fare increase in 15 years. You've expanded the footprint by 5%. So something's got to give here, right? So either you need more revenue, or you need to reduce the routes. Right now, the state taxpayers are putting $65 million of their taxpayers' money. So I have to kind of balance the interest of the taxpayers against the interest of the ridership. I have confidence that the board at RIPTA are going to figure out a good spot to land, and let's see what happens with their hearings.
You just got back from the National Governors Association summer meeting. There are some reports that are surfacing nationally that some of the members, including Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who of course was the vice presidential candidate, are declining to renew their dues because they feel like, frankly, it's not worth it. Do you feel that way at all? No,
I actually think that those associations, where you bring the Republican and Democrats together in the same spot, there's a lot of information to share. I find that policy really drives those meetings. I chaired the National Lieutenant Governors Association, Lieutenant Governor, and very active in the NGA as well. Well, I was in Colorado this week for 2 days, in and out, but I was able to meet with cabinet members in the new administration. Dr. Oz was one of them. He shared information that I think it could be very valuable as we try to continue to address our health care needs in the state of Rhode Island. And so I think it's really important that you keep those lines of communication open.
I have to ask you about politics while you're here. Ted Nesi just reported some fundraising numbers. You're approaching $900,000 in your campaign account, but your likely rival Helena Folks has more than $2 million. Do you think you can close that gap?
Well, it's not a finance competition. We're going to raise what we need to run a good campaign. And then we'll let the dust settle on that. So we're in a process of raising the dollars we need we're going to be a match. So we're going to raise $3.5 million over the time frame and run a good campaign. And really, we don't have control of others, people who can self-fund, and people who can put a couple $1 million in their account and leave it there for 2 years, not touch it, and then tally that into their gross. So we're going to make sure we raise what we need, Kim, to run a good campaign. And in the end, people are going to judge, did I do a lot for the kids on education? Did I raise incomes? Are we healthier? Are we putting more people to work than ever before, which is true, building things that are going to pay dividends for decades to come.
All right, Governor Dan McKee, we are out of time, but thanks so much for joining us here.
Okay, Kim.
That's all the time we have. I urge you to download the 12 Plus TV app to watch all of 12 News programming, including a new show by my Target 12 colleague Eli Sherman called Behind the Story. It's a weekly show that takes you inside the reporting on the region's biggest stories. Eli brings in reporters from Rhode Island and southeastern Massachusetts. Again, find it on the 12 Plus TV app, and you can see the airings on 12 Plus, Fox, Providence, and the CW. I'm Tim White. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.